Hi everyone, welcome to the second Cyber Monday. Today we have Alfredo, and today he's going to be talking about cloud security and his experience within the cybersecurity field. And with further ado, I'm going to have Alfredo take it from here.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. Again, my name is Alfredo Tigolo, and I've transitioned to the cybersecurity field around the year 20, maybe 2021. And that year was interesting because I was still working inside a Amazon facility while I was studying AWS security and AWS web service, Amazon Web Services, and I was also employed by Amazon temporarily. So it was an interesting year. But while I was while I was employed at Amazon, I came across Cypress College and this internship with intelligence. And this is the slide that I helped create myself, or actually they provided, and I just summarized the weeks that we were here. So this is the first page, of course. And I want to give credit to Cypress College for allowing me to do this internship, and intelligence that supported the college and the students to kind of learn about cybersecurity. Uh, oh, next slide. So during the first week, we I was part of Team One, and we basically learned about the environment and lab preparation. We created Windows instances of 2019, and also we created Linux instances as well. This was all used using the EC2 instance and connectivity feature of AWS. So the students were actually learning how to navigate through the Amazon Web Services dashboard so that they can create these instances. A lot of students weren't familiar with the Linux part. On my team, in particular, uh, fortunately for them, I had 4 years of experience using Linux at another company. It was a dealer management system. Company was called Advent Resources. They're based out in San Pedro, and those were 4 years of like field experience that allowed me to navigate the Linux instance pretty well. And my team really benefited from that knowledge because they were not as familiar or strong with Linux, but I helped navigate and coach them with the installation. Go on to the next slide. Oops, we went backwards. Sorry. Week two is not showing. There you go. Week two, we studied about VPN and firewall configuration. I think at this point we were trying to install the client as well as the configuring the firewall instance. So that's pretty much it. So in order for us to connect to the AWS instance that we created earlier in first week, we had to use an RDP protocol, which is a remote desktop, and remote it into that instance, mostly Windows machines. Uh, for the Linux one, because it's not mentioned here, we actually had to use SSH. But the presentation itself was focused more on the Windows part, but we, because of my Linux experience, we tried to also incorporate Linux. But from here, we use the VPN and RDP to remote into a Windows instance. One of the GUI slides is playing on how to like control the client part. In incognito mode, actually, it is blocked. Oh, looks like it's sorry. Right, let's move on to the next slide. Week three. Is incognito mode, actually, it is blocked. So actually the Chrome browser. Hold on, sorry. There's the videos are playing. On week three, wasn't anticipating that. Week three, we did study about endpoint protection. At this point, we basically are. I think we were trying to install the software that would be on the client side of the endpoint. When I say endpoint, it's actually the computer that user uses. In this example, we're using Komodo Dragon to be our endpoint protection software, and we used the installer for Windows to install the endpoint. For the Linux example, we actually had to use command line installations to install the Komodo Dragon client on a Linux instance. But we quickly found out that it doesn't work via command line too well. So I had to kind of retweak the lab a little, where we had to install the GUI for the Windows instance, and I kind of went about said, okay, let's go upgrade and have the X client installed on our Linux instance, and we got it, and then we were able to install the Komodo Dragon using the GUI form. But the to run the instance, we just run it. Sorry, to install the Komodo Dragon, we run komodo.run command in the Ubuntu instance, and those are just the two videos, the examples down there. Let me move on to the week 4. It's not okay. So week 4, we actually studied about the security information and event management um, systems. So a good example of this was we used Alien Vault, and in order for the logs of a particular system to be like captured, we had to deploy what's called a AWS sensor and verify the sensor is running. So then we installed the Alien Vault agent on the client, and then we also verified the if the logs are coming in into the event security event management system. Oh, we're going backwards. Sorry. Let's go to the 5th week. Uh, I think my slide is delaying on the 5th week. There we go. So the 5th week, we then performed brute force attacks, because that was the only example we had that could work and see where the attack is coming from. So th- I guess this week is called security and analysis using the security information event management system. So the brute force attack basically is just me trying to log in multiple times on a particular Linux machine, and the logs would show that inside our security event management system, and it would generate a report, and we launch an attack, and the report's generated, and there's a icon at the bottom. I think that's all the slides. You can go back to take it to you, Ryan, if you had any other questions about the slides and presentation.
Yeah, great job, great job. Thank you so much. Yeah, so just to end off here, I did have a few questions for you. Do you have any tips or advice for people just starting out in the world of cybersecurity?
When you're starting out in cybersecurity, you can just use your experience in your current environment to kind of learn. There's this one person I ran into during my lunch break yesterday, and he was curious. Hey, I want to learn how to study cybersecurity. Where do I start? And then I mentioned to him, well, let's take a look at this restaurant, for example. An example of cybersecurity that's kind of explained and studied is called physical security. So think about the entry points that are coming into the restaurant, the front, the back, besides anywhere that you can consider a point of entry. You have to consider securing that in case there is some kind of like unknown threat that's coming in. And the other thing I wanted to point out is because he was working in a restaurant industry, what would an attacker or a a hacker would try to, attack a restaurant? I was pointing to him. Look at that card key system. Card key. Did I say card key? Anything that anything that swipes the credit card, right? I would think, all right, how can I get information from that off that machine or off of a client's credit card? That's another attack surface right there. So you when you start off in cybersecurity, you just think of the environment that you're in. In this case, in my example, is the restaurant industry. In our case, if we're still going to school, think about the schooling and how schools and colleges protect students. So it really just depends on the environment you're in, and then think about one example, of course, is physical security, and then thinking about what information do you need to protect.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. And then I think our last question here is, what is the most difficult task that you had to overcome in your career?
Transitioning into cybersecurity is actually the difficult task, because it's not everyone that has. I have myself. I have a family to support, so I have to continually work at the same time, but at the same instance, study the material for learning about cyber. At my point in my career, I was kind of in transition in 2021. I was working part time and going to school to learn cyber. So that transition between working and learning cyber, and then all of a sudden, once you get your certificate, you look for your work for your a job that would hire you, that would employ your skills. And I think that's the most difficult part, is the transition from studying to actually working was the kind of like hardest part of my career. But what you have to consider during your transitions, and difficult part, is the support system that surrounds you, your family, your friends, your college student buddies, people like you, for example, the teachers. Think of all the support systems that you have and that encourage you to move forward in your career.
All right, well, thank you very much, Alfredo. I really appreciate you coming out today, this Monday. If you guys would like to reach out to him, his LinkedIn will be linked into the description. But thank you guys for coming out, and we'll see everyone next Monday. Thank you, Alfredo, and thank you everyone for joining. Bye bye.
Thanks.